Hi, I'm Creasman. I teach history on the East Campus. One of the outcomes that I worked on for my TLA experience was what we now call outcomes-based practice. What I was really trying to do was to deal with the professional competency, but at the same time work on outcomes. When I first started working with Celine on the TLA portfolio, one of the things that we noted was that in my field, in history, no one had previously created units. So when we were talking about trying to do a different one of the FLOs, Celine's like, which unit? And I'm like, well, I don't know, what unit? And from that kind of led us to a larger conversation about what are the outcomes. Of course, the college, since I guess 2007, has been working on Common Course outcomes. And so I kind of had those more global outcomes and also the gen ed outcomes. But we didn't really have the alignment connected to my specific courses. And I'm the discipline chair on the East Campus for history, and so I thought this would be a good way to kind of work with my peers, the 4-month contract professor, as well as the adjuncts who help teach history on the East Campus. So I began the process, I guess in 2009, I began the process of getting them together to look at what our course outcomes were, which myself and the other tenured historians had recently completed, and then looked from there to try to drive a little deeper, into the pyramid of aligning the unit outcomes so that they then, as individual professors, could align their daily work. So we began a process of reviewing what the course outcomes were, and from there we focused on just our first course, AMH 2010, which is the first American history course in the series. But we've done this with now all 4 of our courses that we teach in history. But we began looking at what those overall course outcomes were and let those kind of guide us at a more, I guess, a macro level. From there, we went a little deeper then to saying within this first unit of the course, what is it that we think is important to teach? And we just kind of carried that conversation through a series of meetings. I think we had like 3 meetings where we laid out some early, just kind of rough estimates as to what's most important to us. That led to some very fruitful and engaging conversations amongst ourselves as historians, at least on the East Campus, as to what is most important for us to teach. As I'm sure is true in other fields, but certainly in ours, we have more to teach than we have time. So it really becomes important for us and became important for us in our conversation to decide, well, what's most critical, connecting again at the kind of the upper level of the AA or the gen ed outcomes down lower then in alignment with our overall course outcomes, and then specifically trying to line up what we were doing in the unit to match and kind of accomplish at various points those different course outcomes. It was a very fruitful conversation and led us to some really good discussions as peers as to when something is taught, should something be taught, what do we leave out, where is academic freedom in that process, and how do we align some of our assessing. What kind of assessments can we use? And it was good. It was very, very fruitful. Again, I spent the last 3 years doing it in all 3 of our courses in that same pattern. And it's been very helpful. We after the first time I was going to say first semester, but after we finished ultimately the AMH 2010 course, we've put it into rotation. And it's interesting, I have with all the new adjuncts, I'm able to give them a copy, and it says at the very top that it's still a draft. I tell them it's a draft because we're still always kind of tweaking it as to what really is working, what's most important as we consider the outcomes for the specific course within the unit. And then that helps guide our conversations that we have together as far as what we do on an individual day. And that's kind of how we handled aligning our course and our course outcomes with our unit outcomes.